My sister didn't stab me with a knife. She used a smile. That's the first sentence I ever wrote in the notebook I kept hidden beneath the floorboards of my old bedroom. I remember writing it with a trembling hand, staring at the words until they stopped feeling like mine. I wasn't bleeding, but somehow I was bruised all over, and no one could see it because the wounds were polite, polished, dressed in designer heels and cherry red lipstick. My name is Claire Matheson, and if you had met me 4 years ago, you'd probably say I was the lucky one. I lived in a peaceful town in Oregon where people still smiled at each other on sidewalks. I had a steady job as an interior designer, clients who respected me, a fiancé who adored me, or so I thought, and a family that, from the outside, looked like the kind that sent Christmas cards in matching pajamas. But families are rarely what they seem. And my sister, she was the storm that came wrapped in sunshine. Juliana Matheson, the golden girl, the one with the applause, the awards, the attention. 3 years older than me, but light years ahead in everyone's eyes. While I stayed close to home, built something real, Juliana chased dreams across coasts, moved to New York, and worked PR for companies that sounded like luxury perfumes. She hadn't been home in almost 2 years when she called me out of the blue. "Claire Bear," she cooed. "I heard the big news. Engaged to Nolan, huh? Gosh, I always knew you two would make it. I'm flying in this weekend. Can't miss my baby sister's engagement party." My throat tightened. We weren't close. Not really. Our conversations had been shallow, spaced out over birthdays and holidays. I had stopped expecting warmth a long time ago. But I didn't know how to say no to Juliana. Nobody did. So I smiled through the phone and said, "Of course, I'd love to see you." When she walked through our parents' front door that Saturday, she looked like she belonged on a magazine cover. Long legs, flawless skin, luggage that cost more than my rent. She tossed her hair, hugged Mom with dramatic flair, and then turned to Nolan. "Wow," she breathed. "You've aged like wine." He chuckled, awkwardly pulling away from the hug she made linger a second too long. "You look great too, Juliana," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I noticed that, the neck rub." He always did that when he was nervous. I told myself I was overthinking it. Juliana settled in fast. Too fast. She took over the planning like it was her own wedding. She vetoed my playlist, swapped my floral centerpieces for something edgier, and convinced Mom to host a brunch with her old friends, people I barely knew. "We need to elevate your brand, Claire," she laughed, as if my life were a product she was trying to repackage. Nolan played along. He said she was just trying to help. "She means well," he whispered. "You know how she is." Yes, I knew exactly how she was, and still, I said nothing. I stayed composed, like always. That's what I was known for. Claire the stable one, Claire the calm one, Claire the one who didn't make a scene. But inside, something started to ache. One afternoon, I came home early from a client meeting and heard laughter in the kitchen, low, intimate. I peeked around the corner and saw them, Nolan and Juliana, hunched over a tablet, their heads close. Her hand grazed his arm. He didn't flinch. When they noticed me, Juliana chirped, "Hey, Claire!" "I was just helping Nolan pick out cufflinks. Don't worry. I told him the gold ones make him look like a grandpa." She laughed. He smiled. I froze. "I already picked my cufflinks weeks ago," I said flatly. "They're engraved, with our initials." "Oh," Juliana blinked. "Well, maybe keep those for the ceremony." Something shifted that day. That night, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling while Nolan snored beside me. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, that Juliana was just being herself, flirtatious, impulsive, annoying, but not dangerous. Because who would betray their own sister like that? The next morning, my wedding dress disappeared, gone. The boutique called to say someone had come in, Juliana, and swapped it for something bolder. A backless, glittering gown I had never seen before. I confronted her. "What the hell, Juliana? That dress wasn't yours to touch." She blinked, feigning innocence. "Relax, Claire. The new one suits you better. Trust me." Nolan's eyes lit up when I showed it to him. My stomach dropped. "You showed him the dress?" "It's not a big deal," she said breezily, reaching for her mimosa. "It's not like it's cursed if he sees it." My voice cracked. It wasn't about the curse. It was mine. She gave a little shrug, unbothered. "God, you're so sensitive." That night, Nolan was distant, cold, said he was tired, stressed. I stared at his phone when he left it on the nightstand, fingers itching. I had never looked through his messages before. I didn't want to be that person, but something inside me already knew. I opened it. There were texts, not explicit but intimate. Shared photos, little jokes. Conversations that didn't belong between a man and his fiance's sister. My hands shook, my heart thundered, my face felt hot, then numb. I placed the phone back gently, like it was fragile, like I was afraid of breaking it because I was already broken. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I stared out the window at the moonlight bouncing off snow and thought, this is what betrayal looks like. It's not loud, it's soft, it smiles at you while twisting the knife. The next day was our engagement party. I wore the new dress, I let her do my makeup, I posed for photos. I smiled, and in every photo, Juliana is standing close to Nolan. Closer than me. People said I looked radiant. People said we made a beautiful couple. People said we were so lucky. I nodded and swallowed my truth like poison. That night, when I went to find Nolan, he wasn't in the hotel suite. I waited. Hours passed. I texted, called, no reply. At 3:47 a.m., I got a message. We need to talk tomorrow, alone. And I knew. The next morning, I walked downstairs to find Juliana in the kitchen, barefoot, wearing one of Nolan's shirts. She didn't say anything. She just smiled. And that's when I realized my sister didn't stab me with a knife. She used a smile. And she took everything I thought was mine. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't finished yet. The morning after the engagement party, the world outside looked just as it always did. Trees swaying gently in the Oregon breeze, sunlight slipping past the lace curtains, the faint sound of birds chirping. But inside me, everything had died. I sat at the edge of my bed in silence. My phone buzzed with unanswered messages. You looked amazing last night. Congrats, Claire. Can't wait for the wedding. I wanted to hurl it across the room. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. Mascara smudged under my eyes, lips pale, hair still curled from the night before. I looked like a bride, a hollow one. The text from Nolan sat unopened on my screen. We need to talk, alone. I didn't reply. Instead, I got dressed in silence and made my way downstairs, still hoping, stupidly, that what I saw in the kitchen last night was a misunderstanding. That the shirt Juliana wore wasn't his, that my eyes had lied. But the moment I stepped into the kitchen, all hope evaporated. There she stood, Juliana, still barefoot, still in that shirt, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. She glanced at me over her mug. Morning, she said, almost too casually. I swallowed hard. Where's Nolan? She shrugged, showered, went for a run. He's been feeling a little overwhelmed. I stepped forward. Juliana, don't do this. Do what? Whatever game you're playing, stop it. She set her cup down. Game? Oh, Claire, always so dramatic. I saw your texts. I saw you too. Don't lie to me. Juliana gave a small, condescending smile, the same one she used when we were kids and she'd break something of mine, then blame me. You don't understand, she said softly. It just happened. He didn't mean for it to, and neither did I. But we can't control feelings, Claire. I stared at her, stunned. You seduced my fiancé. No, she replied firmly. He came to me because he saw something missing. I blinked, trying to make sense of the words. We were supposed to get married. She tilted her head. And yet, here we are. A sound behind me made me turn. Nolan. He stood in the doorway, his hair damp, eyes dark. Guilt etched on his face, but not enough. Never enough. Claire, he began, voice low. I was going to tell you. I didn't want it to happen this way. But it did. I folded my arms tightly. Tell me the truth. Are you in love with her? A pause, then a whisper. I think so. My knees nearly buckled. I leaned against the counter, breath shallow. And the baby? I asked. My voice was nearly gone. Juliana's silence answered for her. I looked at her belly, flat, untouched, but the way she avoided my gaze, the way Nolan clenched his jaw, I knew. You're pregnant, I said, numb. Juliana finally looked up. I was going to tell you after the wedding, but, well, there won't be one now. I wanted to scream, cry, break every dish in that kitchen, but all I could do was whisper, get out. She blinked. Excuse me? You heard me? Get out of this house, now. And then, I think you should go, said a voice behind me. It wasn't Nolan. It was my mother. I turned. She was standing by the stairs, wearing her bathrobe, arms crossed tightly. I don't know what's going on, she said, but yelling and accusing your sister won't solve anything. I stared at her, stunned. You knew? She avoided my eyes. You knew she was sleeping with my fiancé, that she's pregnant. And you still let her stay here? We didn't want to upset you before the party, she said calmly. It was complicated. And, Claire, sweetie, she's family. I'm family, I screamed. This is my engagement, my life. And you all just stood by and watched it burn. My father appeared behind her, groggy but alert. Enough yelling, Claire. This isn't helping. She betrayed me. He betrayed me. And you're acting like I'm the problem? Juliana stepped forward. I'm sorry you feel hurt, Claire, but maybe this is for the best. I laughed, bitter and broken. You are unbelievable. My mother put a hand on my shoulder. Claire, why don't you take a few days away? Clear your head. You're kicking me out? I whispered. No, she said. We're asking you to be reasonable. I looked around. My childhood home, the walls I once colored on, the kitchen where I learned to bake, the stairs I fell down chasing after Juliana, and now this place, this family was asking me to leave, to make space for the people who destroyed me. I nodded slowly. Okay. I walked upstairs, packed in silence, just a weekend bag, left my engagement ring on the nightstand. I didn't say goodbye. Not to Nolan, not to Juliana, not even to my parents. As I closed the front door behind me, I heard them laughing inside. I didn't know what they were laughing about, but they were laughing. It broke me in ways I didn't know I could break. I drove for hours with no destination. My phone buzzed once. Nolan. I blocked him. I checked into a motel and stared at the ceiling until morning. And for the first time in my life, I made a decision with no one's input, no one's permission. I wasn't coming back. Not just to the house, to any of it. I'd spent my life playing nice, being quiet, taking the leftovers my sister left behind. Attention, affection, approval. But not anymore. They took everything I loved and twisted it into something rotten. So I would take everything they loved and make it mine. But first I had to disappear. They thought I'd disappeared. And in a way, I did. I left Oregon without a forwarding address, without a tearful farewell, without even taking the time to explain to old friends why I wouldn't be around anymore. No cryptic social media post, no trace, just silence, a quiet that screamed. I landed in Seattle 2 days later, alone but breathing easier. For the first time in years, the air didn't taste like I owed it to someone. I rented a tiny studio apartment in a part of the city that smelled like rain and concrete. It had peeling walls and a faucet that groaned in protest every time I turned it, but it was mine. No Juliana, no Nolan, no mother pressuring me to forgive, no father avoiding eye contact, just me. The first thing I did was change my last name. I filed the paperwork with fingers that didn't shake, and when they called out my new identity at the courthouse, I smiled. Claire Reynard. It sounded sharper, like someone you couldn't push around. I cut my hair the next day, walked into a salon and told the woman, take it all off. The stylist hesitated, staring at my long, honey-brown waves. You sure? I've never been more sure. I left the salon with a sleek, jet-black bob and eyes that looked 10 years older. People didn't recognize me. I didn't recognize me, and that was the point. I got a job at a boutique interior firm, small, upscale, and ruthlessly competitive. For 6 months, I worked harder than I ever had. No lunch breaks, no weekends. I studied the clients, the trends, the supply chains, the hidden flaws in luxury design. And when the firm's top designer quit abruptly mid-project, I stepped in and saved a $500,000 contract with a tech executive's wife who cried over marble patterns. They promoted me within a week. I didn't celebrate. I bought a bottle of wine, opened it alone, and poured it down the drain. Because success wasn't the goal. Power was. One night, I checked Juliana's Instagram. Still public. Still curated. Photos of her and Nolan smiling in candlelight. A blurry sonogram post captioned, "Unexpected blessings." Comments flooded in. "You two are glowing. You were meant to be. Claire who?" That one stayed with me. I screen captured it. Saved it in a folder labeled Fuel. It became my ritual. I'd work 16-hour days, then come home and scroll through their lives like I was dissecting a specimen. They moved into my parents' house. Of course they did. My mother posted about it like it was a natural progression. Our Juliana deserves a strong home to raise her child in. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I watched, I listened, I waited. Then one morning, I found what I was looking for. A real estate article about a declining historic neighborhood in Oregon, one that included my parents' aging home. A developer was approaching residents to buy the old properties and turn the area into a modern retail hub. The offer price was generous, too generous. But the caveat? All owners had to unanimously agree to sell, which meant if one person could quietly buy all but one of the homes and stall the vote, they'd have leverage. Or they could do the opposite, force the family out. Like they forced me. I didn't hesitate. I reached out to the developer under my new identity, offered design and consulting services for the redevelopment phase, free of charge, in exchange for early access to the purchase list. They agreed. Within 3 months, I owned 4 of the 7 homes on the block under an LLC registered in Nevada. No one suspected a thing. Then came the final move, my parents' home. I waited until winter, until money got tight, bills piled up, and property tax reminders started to arrive with red stamps. And then I made an offer they couldn't refuse. Cash, clean, above market. I didn't approach them directly, of course. The developer did. But the money, the signatures, the deal, all mine. Juliana posted a cryptic Instagram story 2 weeks later, a shot of a moving truck and the caption, "New beginnings." Always painful. I poured myself a glass of bourbon. They had no idea I was the one behind it. Not yet. But I wasn't done. I hired a private investigator next. A good one. I wanted to know everything about Nolan and Juliana's new life. Where they moved, where Nolan worked, how their finances looked. Turns out Juliana had quit her PR job during the pregnancy and never returned. Nolan was bouncing between freelance gigs and reselling refurbished electronics online. Their baby was cute, objectively. But the sparkle in their photos dimmed month by month. By year 2, Nolan was arrested for unpaid parking tickets and a DUI. By year 3, their social media went quiet, then private. By year 4, I made my move. I attended a silent auction at an elite venue in Portland. Wearing a black designer dress I bought with my first firm bonus, I bid on a historic event hall for private hosting, won it, renovated it, named it the C for Claire, or maybe for closure. Then I hosted my firm's 10-year anniversary gala there and invited every interior designer, investor, and industry name I'd worked with since day one. I also sent an anonymous invitation to Juliana and Nolan. No names. Just a black card with gold embossing and the words, "Let's rebuild what you broke." I didn't know if they'd come, but I had hoped. And they did. When they arrived, I watched them from across the ballroom. They didn't recognize me, not at first. Not with the new hair, the posture, the power. But as I approached, Juliana's smile faltered. Her eyes narrowed. "Claire?" I took a sip of champagne. "Juliana, Nolan, welcome." She looked around. "What is this?" "My building," I said. Her face froze. "This is your—" "I designed it. I own it. Every inch." Nolan stared at me, jaw slack. Juliana took a shaky breath. "Why invite us?" I leaned in slowly so only they could hear. "Because I wanted you to see what I built after you burned my life to the ground, and I wanted you to know you didn't destroy me. You created this." I turned, leaving them speechless under the chandeliers. The rest of the night was a blur of praise, congratulations, music, and power. And Juliana? She stood in the corner, forgotten. Just the +1 now. For weeks after the gala, I heard nothing from Juliana or Nolan. Not a message, not a phone call, just silence. Which was fine, because I wasn't finished yet. I'd built the exterior, my empire, my appearance, my new identity. Now it was time to strike the final blow where it hurt most. Reputation, legacy, and the fragile pride Juliana wore like skin. I waited for the right moment, when the cracks in her life had widened enough for the truth to pierce through. I watched quietly, like a surgeon preparing for a final incision. No mess, no theatrics, just precision. That moment came 6 months later. The local paper announced the shortlist for Oregon's Women in Vision Award, a recognition for women entrepreneurs, creatives, and leaders. My firm, Reynard Interiors, had landed me on the list. It was publicized, celebrated, talked about. And someone, maybe mom, maybe a bored former classmate, leaked to Juliana that Claire Reynard was Claire Matheson. She called. I didn't answer. She emailed. Subject, "We need to talk." I didn't open it. Then she showed up. She came to my office dressed in her old tricks, pastel blazer, fake humility, and a smirk that didn't quite fit on her aging face. Her eyes darted nervously, as if trying to figure out which version of me she'd be facing. I stepped out of the glass conference room slowly, clipboard in hand, and met her at reception. She was already mid-sentence with my assistant. "I'm her sister," she said, loud enough for the whole lobby to hear. I raised an eyebrow. "Is there a problem here?" She turned, faltering slightly. "Claire. I go by Reynard now," I said evenly. "You're making a scene." Her mouth opened, but I didn't wait. I turned to my assistant. "Reschedule my 4 p.m., tell Jonathan to hold the London call for 20 minutes. Then I led her to the same conference room where I'd closed million-dollar deals. Her heels clicked nervously across the marble floor. We sat. She spoke first. Of course she did. Why? She asked. Why all of this? Be specific. You bought the house. You crushed us. You humiliated me. I leaned back. You humiliated yourself, Juliana. I just held up a mirror. I didn't mean to fall in love with him. I laughed. Once. Sharp. Don't insult me with that word. You didn't fall in love. You hunted. You waited. You stole. You think I wanted my life to be this way? Nolan lost his job. Our son barely sleeps. We're living in a rental duplex behind a liquor store. I tilted my head. Sounds like karma, or a country song. Her face flushed. I'm not here to fight, she said quietly. I'm here because I need help. I stared. Help. Yes. Mom and Dad. They're losing everything. Dad had a stroke last month. Mom's selling jewelry to pay the bills. Nolan can't find stable work. I've been trying to hold it all together. I let the silence stretch. Let her stew in it. You want my help? After what you did, I was jealous, okay? She snapped suddenly. I've always been jealous of you. You were loved quietly, deeply, truly. I was just noise. Sparkle. The fun one. The easy one to like, but hard to keep. I thought taking Nolan would give me what you had. She paused. But I was wrong. I've been wrong about everything. I folded my hands slowly. You didn't just take Nolan. You took my family. You turned my parents against me. You convinced them I was overreacting while you played the victim. You used my pain as a prop. And now, what, you want me to write a check and pretend none of it happened? Tears welled in her eyes. Yes, for the first time, she didn't even try to dress it up. I stood, walked to the window, and stared out over the skyline. The city that made me. The silence that saved me. Then I turned to her. I'll make you a deal. She looked up quickly. Hope. Desperate and twitching. I'll pay off the debt. Medical, utilities, whatever they owe. I'll even help Mom get back on her feet. She nodded eagerly. Yes, thank you. But I cut her off. You disappear. Her face dropped. You never call me, never show up, never speak to me in public. You will delete every photo that has my face, remove every trace of my name from your mouth, and if anyone asks who your sister is, you will say, I don't have one. She blinked. You're serious? Deadly. And if I say no? I smiled faintly. Then I'll release the security footage. She paled. What footage? From the engagement party. The kitchen, the hallway, the text messages you left open on Nolan's phone. I saved everything. Her mouth parted. You planned this? I endured this. I walked back over and stood in front of her, level and unshaking. You took my life. So I built another one. Stronger, sharper, better. And now I'm taking yours apart, piece by piece. But I'm offering you an exit. She looked at the table, then at me, and for the first time, she looked afraid. Fine, she whispered. I'll take the deal. I nodded. Good. You'll get a call from my lawyer with the terms. Breach it, and I go public. She stood shakily. Her hands were trembling. The Juliana I had known, untouchable, unstoppable, was gone. Just a woman in borrowed clothes, shrinking. As she turned to leave, she paused. Claire? I didn't answer. I really am sorry. I didn't look at her, because I didn't need her apology. I already had everything I wanted. 2 weeks after the last time I saw Juliana, I received a letter. It wasn't an email, it wasn't a phone call, it was a real paper envelope with my name handwritten on the front, Claire Reynard, in black ink that bled a little at the edges, like the person writing it hadn't known how to hold the pen steady. Inside was a single page. Claire, I've deleted the photos. I've told everyone we're not in touch anymore. I moved out of Oregon. Nolan and I are separating. Maybe it was never real. Or maybe we broke it before it had a chance to be. I never thought you'd survive what we did. I never thought I'd have to watch you rise higher than I ever dreamed of going. But you did. You didn't just win. You became someone untouchable. I'm sorry it took losing you to see who you really were. Jay. I folded the letter once and slid it into a drawer. I didn't need it. I didn't need closure from her or from anyone, because I already had it. Some people think revenge is fire, screaming, destruction, glass breaking. But real revenge? It's ice. Still, cold, clean. It doesn't demand attention. It demands silence. I didn't need to ruin Juliana's life. She had done that herself. All I did was make sure she watched me build one without her. It's strange, the things that heal you. For me, it wasn't the money, or the firm, or even the house I now owned in place of the one she stole. It was the morning I walked into my office alone, coffee in hand, and realized no one was watching me anymore. No one waiting to pounce, correct, compare. I was free. Not because they let me go, but because I let them lose me. People ask me sometimes if I have a sister. I smile. No, I say. Not anymore. And that's not bitterness. That's peace. The kind you earn, the kind you bleed for, the kind you build out of ashes. So if you're listening to this and you've ever been made to feel small, erased, invisible, just remember, you don't need permission to become powerful. You just need to walk away without looking back.